What's going on, YouTube? It is mock-up time for the 59 frame. So I have a whole lot of work ahead of me, but I like to mock up things before paint. I do have a lot of things already in chrome. I'm gonna start assembling the front suspension here, which these are most of the front components, and that is most of the back. So what I wanna do is just mock up everything up here, get the A-arms in, the springs, spindles, make sure the whole weight of the frame is on the wheels and tires. And then I'm gonna do the same to the back. I'm gonna assemble all of this, mock everything up, make sure everything's good. I did get my cups welded in, so those are ready to go. I am gonna be running coil unders on this car, as you can see right there. After I get the frame on the wheels and tires, the whole frame, I'm gonna go ahead and mock up my engine, because I bought some weld-in motor mounts. So I have to sit everything in here and weld the mounts, get everything centered. And I also have to do my brake lines, fuel lines. I did take the frame down to Lone Star Lowe's compound. Also the body, and the reason I took the frame was to mock it up on the body and weld in these extra 59 mounts. And then also we made holes in the trunk for the uprights right here for the battery rack for the hydraulics. So we got all of that lined up, and I brought it back, and now I have to mold in these mounts, test fit the engine, get everything mocked up before paint. So once everything is sitting the way I want it with the engine, with the brake line holes, all of that stuff, I'm gonna pull everything back off. I'm gonna powder coat the frame, and then I'm gonna do a little bit of body work over the powder coat, and then I'm gonna base coat and clear coat the frame. So that's the plan moving forward with this thing. So I got my work cut out. Got quite a bit of parts here. I still have some more parts in the attic that I need to bring down, but for the most part, everything is here. So for the engine and transmission, I'm gonna be running another LT, a Gen 5 LT with the 6L80. So I have all the components to fit it in here, which is oil pan, motor mounts, headers, and transmission pan. So I'm gonna be going through all those parts when I put it in, so you can see how everything fits. And I will be sharing all the part numbers everywhere I got everything from with you guys. That way it can be easy on anyone trying to do this in the future. They can just hit the link and know what they need to buy. But I'm always open for questions. Anybody who has any questions, just feel free to hit me up in the comment section, and I'll answer them to the best of my knowledge. So I'm gonna start with the front suspension. Before I do that, I still have not cut the holes for the hydraulic cylinders. So I'm gonna do that now. What you wanna do on this shock hole, you wanna use the hole as the outside, this hole here as the outside of the hydraulic cylinder. Reason being is because of the shafts on the control arm, they go right here. So if you were to actually follow this hole and go straight down, it would be right on the shaft. So you need to bring the cylinder out. So the hole is gonna be right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and set up my hole saw and get these cut out. So I got one hole down. As you can see, it's right outside of the shaft of the A-arm right here. So that's why you wanna use this hole as the outside. So this always has to be the outside, and this goes for 58 through 64 Impalas or anything with the X frame. And just a side note on the cross shaft for the driver side or the left side, this indentation here is for your steering shaft. So I've seen people run into trouble where they put these on backwards, or they'll put one that's just straight. So you want to have this indentation if you're using your stock shafts on the left side, because your steering shaft is going to go straight down to here into your gearbox. All right, so this little bit of mock-up that I got here is already paying off, because the whole reason to mock everything up is to make sure everything's okay. And I ran into an issue right here where the A-arm was hitting the frame. And if you guys go back to when I reinforced this frame, I did not add metal to the top portion right here, but these arms are a lot thicker than a factory arm. So this little bit down here was sitting on the frame. So I have plenty of clearance now. All I did was I ground it down to where there was nothing in the way. I had to re-weld a little bit right here, and the same thing on the other side. So this is the reason you want to mock everything up. There it is. So I did the same thing on this side, ground it down, re-welded a little bit, and then I just hit it with a little bit of rattle can just to keep it from flash rusting. So now that the uppers are on and everything's good to go with the uppers, I'm gonna continue with the lowers, and then I'm gonna get the coils in and the spindles, and then I'm gonna show you guys my disc brake kit that I got for this car. So let me move on to the lowers and I'll bring y'all back. All right, I got the lowers on and the coils. Everything is just snagged up. Got the coils in also. I didn't put the cylinders in because I do not have cups, so I need to buy some deep cups for that. But now we can go ahead and move on to the brake kit. So this brake kit bolts on straight to the factory spindles. These are factory 58 through 64 spindles right here. And this kit that I bought is made by Speedway Motors. So it's a very complete kit. It only has a couple of brackets that you use that bolts on straight to the spindle. So it's very straightforward, very easy. And when I tell you this kit has everything, it has everything. It even comes with brake lines, as you can see here. Brake lines, dust boots, the dust covers, inner and outer bearings, all the bolts that you need for it, for the spindles. I mean, castle nuts. These are 11-inch rotors. These are basically the same rotors off of G-body, which is 78 through 88, you know, Monte Carlo, Cutlass, you know, all those type cars. Now let me see. The brake calipers are also, they're a Speedway brand, but they're the exact same calipers that come on a G-body. Here are the brake pads. Now, I already had some Wilwoods double cylinder brake calipers. These are aluminum that I'm gonna try and fit these on. So they should have the same exact geometry as a G-body, so they should just bolt on straight to that bracket. Now, is it gonna clear the Daytons? We're gonna see. Well, I had originally started on the right side with the brake conversion, and unfortunately they sent me two left side caliper brackets. So I was only able to put this one together, and there it is. Pretty easy caliper setup. There's really not a whole lot to it. It's just, it comes with this bracket here, this big one, the zinc coated one. All you gotta do is add a spacer up here, and then a spacer down here, and then you can bolt all this together. This is not tight because I really just wanted to mock up the brake area when the time comes. When I take everything apart again, I'm gonna powder coat all of this in one chunk, but everything fits good. So now the biggest thing is, will the calipers clear the 13-inch Daytons? We are in business. These are pretty good. The only thing I would watch is the weights on the wheels, so make sure they don't put no big weights on the inside, because then that would rub. See, I got that tiny weight right on the lip, but that one clears just fine, so that's good. There it is, it's the money. So that's perfect. I'm happy now. Can't really see them. I'm gonna end up painting them calipers black. I'll try to save the Wilwoods logo, but I don't see that happening. Well, it's starting to look like something over here. I did contact Speedway Motors about this bracket. They should be sending me one next week, so I'll put that together whenever it gets here. Here's the other side. Everything good. Nothing's hitting. Nothing's rubbing. All good so far. So, got my cylinder holes. So now I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the back. I'm gonna assemble that rear end and get everything fitted, make sure everything's good to go. I am gonna chrome plate this rear end housing. Before I do that, I'm gonna mold it in. I don't like all these welds. I mean, they're nice welds, don't get me wrong, but I'd rather not have them there like all this right here. I'm gonna add more metal to it, smooth it in with the tube here. Just smooth in everything I can, like this right here. Just make it flush. And then I'm not gonna be using these shock mounts. I do like the hole here itself to tie the car down on a trailer, you know, if I go out of state or out of town. So what I'm gonna do, instead of cutting the whole thing off, I'm gonna cut it about right here, and then I'm gonna round it off right here, and then just make the hole right there. That way I can still put a strap and you know, just cross them right here. But yeah, let me go ahead and start on the assembly on this, and I'll bring y'all back. All right, so I got most of the rear end assembled here. So for those of you who don't know, or if you haven't heard me mention it, this is a custom Ford 9 rear end. It's a 31 spline. The gear ratio I'm running is a 350, and it does have a posi as well. So the whole rear end is from Pitbull Hydraulics, and so is this Y-bone. It's a custom piece, only made originally by Pitbull Hydraulics. Now, there has been some replicas along the years. I wouldn't buy that. This is proven. I've ran it in the past, and I love it. It allows for up to a 14-inch cylinder with stock trimming arms. 3 wheels, goes all the way down, all the way up. Very versatile Y-bone. So there it is. Has plenty of adjustment here for your ride height, for your pinion angle. Here you have your hem joint, and this allows it to articulate quite a bit. So there's plenty of adjustment in here, and that is almost all the way down there. And I want to show you guys the axles that come with this. Again, these are 31 spline, and when you order from Pitbull Hydraulics, they'll send you these axles with double retainers. So these retainers are not gonna walk out on you. You know, these axles are not gonna walk out on you. Really nice fit. Now for the 59, well, let me go back. From the 58 to the 60 Impala, you do not have to narrow the rear end because the body is wide enough to where you can run skirts, nothing's gonna hit. Now you can order this narrowed, and I would recommend that for 64 through 61, or 61 through 64. Those do have to be narrowed in order to run skirts. If not, you're gonna be rubbing on your skirts. So here's the axles. Now, everything here is custom. I like mocking everything up beforehand because there's no way you can tell me that you're gonna put all this custom stuff together and it just fall in place. So that's the reason why I have not chrome plated the rear end, and I have not chrome plated that Y-bone. That's really all I have left to chrome plate on the rear end. The third member, I'm gonna paint it the dark color on the car. And even the third member itself, I had to drill out the holes just a hair to fit that in there. Now, had that thing been painted, you know, I probably would have made a mess. So it's just things that you need to consider when you're running everything custom. I would mock it up first. So right now, I do have drum brakes for this car. I'm not convinced that I want to run drum brakes just yet. So what I'm gonna do is just put in the axles with the retainers and put the wheels on. And then once I change that other shock mount, I'm gonna tighten everything up real good I'm gonna put the cylinders in, and I'm gonna go up and down on the cylinders just to make sure everything's good before I move forward. All right, I got my axles in. Easy money, very straightforward. All you have is these 4 bolts for your axle retainer right here. Now I'm gonna have to go buy some lug nuts for this because these are pretty heavy duty, and the original lug nuts that I have do not fit. There they are. Boom. Remember also, quick tip, one axle is always longer than the other. The short axle goes on the driver's side. The long axle goes on the passenger side. So don't forget that, because you will have a long day if you try to do otherwise. All right, YouTube, this video is kind of choppy because I've had to record it, you know, on different days and different weeks. I've been really busy, so I'm not sure what day I actually started on the video, but everything back here on the rear end is done. Everything is bolted up and it's nice. So I did add a sway bar. I don't think I had recorded that part, but it's a custom sway bar, and it bolts directly under the control arms. The control arms had recessed nuts on the inside of it, so you would just take the bolt itself and bolt it right to it. So it was a little bit of a struggle, you know, trying to get that sway bar on. It did need a little persuasion, but it fit. So there's the sway bar. A lot of people refer to these as South Side sway bars, and I'm not sure if that's because of the car club South Side, and that's what they usually ran. I think that's the reference for it. I'm honestly not sure. This one is completely custom. You usually see people take these off of late 70s Monte Carlos, and then they'll fabricate them to fit their control arms. So this one is just handmade, and it's a lot shorter than the Monte Carlo ones. It doesn't go as far back or as far low as a Monte Carlo one would. So this one is a lot closer to the rear end, and this loop right here is really close to the arm, so the shock barely fits right here. So it worked out well. So all this is done. I mean, all I have to do now for the rear end is, you know, once I take all this apart, I'm gonna mold all the welds on the rear end. And I think I mentioned that already, so forgive me if I'm repeating that, but I'm gonna mold everything, and then I'm gonna chrome plate the housing, and I'm gonna chrome plate this Y-bone, and this bracket right here. That one's already chrome plated. So all this is gonna be chrome plated. I'm gonna paint the third member. This is a third member from Quick Performance, and that one also needed a little bit of persuasion to get on. I mean, everything back here is custom, guys, so I mean, it's not gonna fall into place, so you have to make some things work. So in order for me to fit that third member on this fabricated 4.9, I had to drill out all of the holes on the third member because it would only go so far. So everything was in a bind pretty much, and you don't want that on your third member, because if you ever have to take that sucker off, you're gonna have a lot of trouble. So I drilled them enough to where it just fell right in place. So that worked out good. Let me see what else. I think that was it for the back. Still not sure what to do about these brakes, but I'll cross that bridge when we get there. So for today's project, I am gonna be fitting the engine in here. Here's the engine. I stripped it down, I don't know, a couple days ago. It still had all the front drive accessories, the intake, the exhaust, the wiring. So I took all of that stuff out. So I do have a custom transmission mount. I will put this link in the description. I got this on eBay. I think it was like $100. And I'm gonna be doing something different for the engine mounts themselves. They are custom and they are weld on. So I'm not gonna use anything, you know, of the factory mounts here on the bottom. They're gonna be weld on, and then I'm gonna mold them in. So that's today's project. I'm gonna line up everything, make sure everything is square and straight down the middle. And I'm gonna get this engine fitted in there. The biggest thing right now to fit this engine in here is to change that oil pan. That oil pan is not gonna clear this cross member here. So I do have my oil pan. I'm gonna open up the oil pan. I'm gonna open up the engine mounts and I'm gonna show you guys what I'll be running. And again, both of those items and everything you see that I'll be using to make this engine fit will be in the description. So just follow those links. So right now I'm gonna raise this engine up. I'm gonna drain the oil. I'm gonna take the oil pan off and then I'll show you guys the new oil pan. So the oil pan is off. Everything looks pretty clean. There it is. So now I'm about to unbox the oil pan we're gonna be using. So here it is, it's a polished oil pan. I thought about chrome plating it, but I'm just gonna leave it alone. So it comes with all the brand new bolts for the oil pan, gaskets, everything. Here is the windage tray. So it's a complete kit. I forgot how much I paid for it. I think it was like 400 bucks or something like that, or somewhere in that ballpark. But everything looks good. So right now I'm just gonna put it on there with a couple bolts and just to mock up the engine to fit it in there, and then I'll take it back off. Whenever I take the engine back out, I'll put the old oil pan back on because I'm gonna paint the transmission and the block with the old oil pan on. That way I won't get no paint on this thing. There it is mocked up. You can already see the lower profile of it versus that stock one that hangs down really low. All right, now we're gonna move on to the motor mounts. Let me show you what I got. So here are the motor mounts. They are made by ITC Billet. There's the part number right there. I'll make sure to link that again in the description. And these are weld-in mounts. So these ears here are what are gonna have to be trimmed to fit on the frame, you know, depending on how low you want the engine to the chassis. So it has a few positions you can put it in, you know, front or back, you can move it. And that's where this would come into play, just like that. So once it's on, it's on. So I have an idea of where I need it right now. So it's kind of almost in the middle. So I'm gonna go ahead and unbox this. I'm gonna get this on the engine and get these on the engine as well. And then we'll start fitting it in. All right, so here are the motor mounts. You put this part first, and then you put this part on whatever position you want. So there's 3 positions. Well, there's actually 5 positions that you can put it in. So we'll start here from the front all the way back. And based off of my rough measurements, just right now with the measuring tape, we're gonna put this right in the middle. So that should be okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and mount these on, and then we'll get this thing closer to the frame so we can sit it in. Okay, that's what that looks like. Wonderful, beautiness, polished. Everything's polished. I will show you guys my headers that I'm gonna be running. And they are ceramic coated, so they're the exact same color. It's gonna match pretty well, but that's how that's looking. Beautiful, beautiful. So now I gotta move some things around so I can get this thing closer to the frame. And oh, I also put the transmission mount that came with that mount over there. So ready to go. Just need to get this thing a little closer. I need to move that frame back, move this over, and sit it in. Okay, there it is. So as you can see, there's still a lot of adjustment over here in the back. The engine can go back quite a bit. And that is with mounts in the center position, right there. That is the center position on the motor mounts. And we do have a pretty good amount of clearance between the oil pan and the cross member. So I'm thinking, see right there is about a finger, about right there. This side is pretty much the same. So we could go a little bit lower. So you remember, you gotta leave some room for a little bit of bounce. So I need to make sure everything is centered. And let me show y'all what is gonna be welded in. So here are the mounts. As you can see, they are beefy. This is 1/4" steel. So they're trimmed to fit. So we're gonna fit them, and then depending on how high or low you want the engine is where you cut. And then this is gonna be welded to the frame. All right, so I got everything centered. I got everything marked where it needs to be. The engine is centered to the drivetrain completely. I had already pulled a string for the center and measured 100 times. So this is where we're at. Now these are the mounts that I have to cut. So I'm gonna just run the bolt right here, and I'm gonna take a pick and I'm gonna mark the back side of this mount right here. I'm just gonna run it through, and it's gonna mark a line right where the frame is at, and I'm gonna cut right at that line. And then once I cut that completely off, I'll bevel both edges. That way I can weld in one side right here. And then we're gonna go to the other side. That's gonna be about right there, like that. And then we're gonna go to this side and do the same thing, but we're gonna do the back first. I'm gonna do this one. So the back one is a little bit shorter than the front one. It's not a lot, I mean, it's very, very minimal, but I'll do the same thing back here. I'm gonna hang the mount, put the bolt where it's straight, and then mark it and cut it. So everything's looking good. Pretty excited for this mock-up. I've been waiting for this for a while. So I did have to move this part of the mount over 1 notch. So we're on the second one right now. So I had it centered. I moved it over just a hair. That way this mount can be centered to the frame on both sides. So it was a little bit off, and I had the transmission to the forward position all the way over. And what I did is I just scooted the transmission back a 1/2 inch, and then I moved this over to the second position so it can be centered to the frame. So I still have a bunch of room to move this back or forward. Here is the body mount right here. So the firewall is back over here. The mount itself curves over right here, and the firewall is right here. So I have plenty of room right here on the back of the engine for the wiring, and a little bit of room that I'm gonna need for the intake. The intake is just a little bit bigger than this. So there's still a lot of room for what I need. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this mount and get that one tacked in. Do the same thing on the other side, and then just keep moving forward. So I got one cut already. I beveled the edges on both sides. Both sides will be welded. And if you notice in here, you want to give yourself a little bit of space from the body mount to the mount itself. So I put a washer in between. You don't want it to be too snug, like right up on it, because then you're gonna have issues when you put your motor in. You want to just have a little bit of wiggle room, and a washer is enough for that. So now I got everything cleaned up. I'm gonna go ahead and just tack it in place. Just a couple tacks, and then we'll move on to the next one. And there you have it. I'm really liking these mounts. ITC billet, thank you. Man, that looks beefy. So these are 1/4 inch. I obviously still need to go back in and weld the inside. And then also, just so I can make it look better, I'm gonna weld a plate from here down, and then mold everything in, and then weld everything on the inside also. I don't know if I'm gonna put a plate on the inside. Maybe, yeah, probably 2 plates. One here and one here. And then mold everything in. That'll make them a lot stronger, and it'll look a lot better. Wonderful. Yep. Digging it. I am digging it. Look pretty cool. So now I'm gonna go ahead and get this hoist out from under here, and I'm gonna put the car on the ground, the wheels. Right now it's still in the skates. And then I'm gonna show you the exhaust manifolds, and I'll go ahead and get them fitted and see what we're working with. So here are the exhaust manifolds. They are made by Hooker headers. They do come with the collectors and also the metal gaskets, which I prefer, and the bolts for the collectors. And I like that these holes are threaded for the collectors. For those of you that have put on the exhaust where you have to, you know, tighten a nut and a bolt, it's kind of a hassle because typically these are in really tight areas. So I do appreciate that. It'll be a lot easier. So it did not come with the bolts, so I'm gonna mock it up right now with the factory bolts. And I measured these. These are online, and they have the measurements online. And I had kind of done some measurements based off of that. I obviously haven't put them on yet, so about to see what we got. I think it's gonna drop exactly where we need it. So let me go ahead and try one on. There's one that's just mocked up right there, and it looks like this is gonna work. I wish it was just a little bit further back to kind of drop in right here in the middle, but that works. That works for sure. I like the look. The ceramic coating matches the polished engine mounts and the polished oil pan. And then the serpentine kit is also polished, so all that will match. Yeah, pretty good so far. I'm digging it. So let me go ahead and get the other side in. There you have it. This the driver's side actually fit a little bit better than the passenger side. You can see that drops down just perfect right here. Anybody that's done exhaust on an X-frame knows how crucial this part of the exhaust is. It's a pain, it really is, because all of this has to come down and then coming through this little pocket right here between the arm and the frame. There's this little space, so this has to come down, come through here like that to the X-frame. Follow straight that way. So if you don't run your pipe right here between the arm and right here where it starts dropping off, your exhaust is gonna be too low to the ground. So I experienced that, you know, on the first exhaust I did on the X-frame. I had brought it out kind of further over here, and then by the time I connected it to the muffler, it was sagging. It was real low. So you have to bring it straight out right here. That way you have the most ground clearance on your mufflers. So man, that fit really well. I do have a few more items for this video on the mock-up. So here's the car pan for the 6L80. There's a few cars that share this same pan. I like that it has a drain plug. And when you change the pan, you also have to change the filter. And the gasket, I have the gasket somewhere else, but here is the part number for the pan itself. This is a GM part number, straight from General Motors, 240-3625. And here is the part number for the filter, 242-52158. So this will give you some better ground clearance. So this came in the Camaros with the V8, the early Cadillacs, the Chevy SS, the Caprice, and the G8. I think that's all of them. But any car that had the V8 in it, the LT1 and the 6L80 shared this pan. So as you can see, that pan is way thinner. Hopefully y'all can see that a little bit better, but there's quite a bit of difference in the depth. So this is exactly what you want to run. That way you won't have too many issues with ground clearance. So this is the same setup I had on the Red Rocket, and I never bottomed out on anything. So worked out really well. I don't know if I'm gonna chrome plate this or not. So I'm kind of in the air because it's next to something that's polished. So it might be too bright. So I might just paint it when I paint the block and maybe just put, you know, chrome bolts on it. But there that is. So yeah, I've gone through everything you need to put a LT1 or a LT4 on an X-frame. So you got your transmission pan, your oil pan, your transmission mount, your engine mounts. There is different options for headers. This is my first time running these. They look great. They're ceramic coated, so I think it's gonna be just fine. Show you the clearance on the cross member. About a 1/2 inch. Right here. Right here. So you're good to go there. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my intake and just drop it on there so I can look at it. All right, I got my intake on and I'm loving it. So everything's coming into place. And man, when I tell you I've been collecting parts for a while, I really have. So opening up all these boxes that I've had for almost 2 years, you know, I've had a lot of these parts just put away. I actually started buying parts for a non-existent 59. So I didn't even have the car and I was already buying parts for it. I just knew some way, somehow, I was gonna have a 59. So I even bought this chassis before I bought the car. I had this whole drivetrain, man, like almost 2 years before the car. So it's just been a dream, and it's fun seeing it come together. I had these control arms, I had springs. I haven't had that rear end for that long. But I didn't buy all this stuff all at once. It's been a couple of years of just collecting parts and working. So you've seen where I built this frame at the beginning of this year, beginning of 2024. I did all this work myself. So now the biggest thing, I think the biggest takeaway from all of this is mock-up. If you're gonna build a car to this extent, make sure you're mocking things up, because it'll save you from a giant headache and it'll save you a lot of money as well. So mock up, mock up, mock up. I'm always preaching about that, making sure things fit before you make them pretty. I had mocked the frame already on the body. That's why I have those extra mounts over there. So all of that fit really well. And here you have it. So before I take this frame apart and make things look pretty, I have to do my brake lines. So I'm gonna do that in a whole separate video. If y'all want, you know, I don't know how interested you guys are in making brake lines or having a video about brake lines. It seems kind of boring, but I mean, I could do it. Everything is gonna be, you know, custom bent, and it's gonna be hidden just like I did on the red car. And I'm gonna run the main brake line through the driver's side. Typically, for whatever reason, the main brake line would always come down here and then end up over there at the passenger side. I welded up that hole, and I'm gonna weld a new hole here. And then from there, I'm gonna run my brake line, my soft brake line, to the rear end somewhere, and then do a T on the rear end on this side. So I'm gonna keep everything on the left side. Run my brake line through here and then up, and then the front brake line, I like running them behind the cross member because you don't see it. It looks a lot better. I've always liked the look of a clean, reinforced cross member like that. I like when the brake lines are running right there. It throws everything off. So whenever I see a car, whenever I see something, I like things to flow. I don't like things to just stop my eye, and that would definitely stop my eye. So I'm gonna do my brake lines next. I'm gonna do my own flares, my own bends, all that. And then after that, well, here are the little brackets for the brake lines. So I have to drill and tap the frame to be able to put these on. So this is best to do it now, because trying to do this with the body on is just literally a pain in the neck. It's not easy, it won't come out clean. So in order for this to be as clean as possible, I gotta do it now. So I can do the back now, but then I'm gonna have to pull the engine out to do the front, which is fine. The engine had to come out anyways. Everything is coming out. Everything you see here is coming off of the frame. and I'm gonna get this frame real pretty. I'm gonna mold in whatever's left, do a little bit more work to the bottom of the frame, mold everything out, and then I'm gonna powder coat it. And then on top of the powder coat, I'm gonna do the body work, and then I'm gonna base coat and clear it. I'm gonna seal it, base coat, and clear it. So this is gonna be the dark color of the car. So if you guys seen the wings, the top, the stripe, that's gonna be this color. And the engine and the transmission are also gonna be the dark color. And then I do have the covers for up here, but I don't think I'm gonna run those covers. Actually, I know I'm not gonna run those covers. So I got a little idea in store, a little something custom, different. I like those, they look sleek, they're nice, but I've already ran them in the past and I kind of want to do something different. So I want to keep the theme of the car. I do have factory fuel injection logos that I'm gonna add to the custom cover. So that's gonna be nice. So I think that's a wrap for this video. I'm gonna have to tear it all down now. Put it all back away, just for a little bit. Mold this rear end, chrome it out. So I still got some work ahead of me. I still need to paint the rest of the car, so that's coming up pretty soon. That's probably gonna be the next video. But that's it for this one, guys. If y'all have any questions or comments, let me know. I will try my best to put every single little thing I used here to fit this engine in the description. If I missed anything, let me know. If y'all need any information from anything else that you see here, let me know. I've always share information and I'm happy to do it. I've never understood why people hoard information like it's something new. There's nothing new under the sun, guys. So all this is just, it's been done. It's been done. I'm just showing you how I'm able to do it. So again, that's a wrap for this one, guys. And I'll catch you on the next one.